an exit strategy really is the most important part of the diet, because an exit strategy is a way to leave your current situation, either because your goal has been achieved or because you want to mitigate failure. And in the case of weight loss, it's both. You've reached your goals and you don't want to fail in the future.
Hello and welcome to the Core Podcast. We're your hosts, Aline Keller
and Shannon Polson.
I'm a precision nutrition certified coach.
And I'm a NASM certified personal trainer for over 13 years. We support women 30 years old and over to pursue health through realistic nutrition and fitness strategies. Our main passion is to help you find that smile when you look in the mirror, find freedom when you eat, and joy when moving your body.
Make sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of doable health tips, practical advice, and so much more. It's the health education you wish you'd had.
All right, today Aline is talking about the 2 things you really need for diet success. And I feel like there's probably a lot of different opinions floating around in the universe right now, right? Like what is probably successful for one person would be considered successful for the other person. So I'm excited to hear about these 2 dynamics and how we can mesh them together for some diet success.
Yeah, and you're right. And because success is different for each person, right? I heard a talk a while back on, winning is better than losing. But what's winning? Everybody wants to win, but unless you define what your win is, you might not win, right? Because you need to define for yourself what success is. So usually in the world of dieting, success means that you've reached whatever weight you wanted to reach. Your health markers have improved. You don't gain the weight back. That is a big, when we talk about dieting, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, we define successful weight loss as keeping the weight off for 3 or plus years. So that's all of these things, could have a few differences between people in meaning success. But I think it's fair to say that, going on a diet, reaching your goal weight, that's usually what most people call success. Not everybody takes into account what we talk about a lot, which is maintenance, right? Like, okay, so you reached your goal weight. Now, are you staying there? So I think that success with a diet is reaching a happy weight and staying at that weight, right? Whatever weight you lost, you keep it off. And so all that being said, big intro. So the diet is over and you've reached that goal and you feel great. You're happy to look in the mirror. You can finally eat as much of your favorite foods that you had to stop eating. That doesn't sound right. But that's usually how it plays out. That's usually what happens. People finish a diet and it's no man's land. So, I finished the diet that we joke about the 21 days all the time, right? So I finished the diet, I finished these 3 weeks. Yay, I can eat everything that I couldn't eat before. And that is not the definition of a successful diet, but it's also where you're left without knowing what to do, right? So it's just like you go on this diet and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I did the diet. Now I can go back to normal, because the end of a diet is really no man's land. There isn't an immediate goal to reach. You're desperately craving the foods that you had to avoid. And what usually happens is that you go out and you buy all the foods that you were forbidden to eat for whatever reason, because they're white, because they're carbs, because they're not clean, because they're packaged, they're processed. I don't know why, but for some reason you couldn't eat these foods, and you go and you buy all of them and you tell yourself that since you didn't eat them for all this time, now you'll be able to control yourself. Since you were so good and you reached your goal, you're going to be good. You're going to do the right thing. Except that you systematically and not purposefully, you eat all the food faster than even you thought that you were able to inhale it. And I say this because I've been there and it wasn't my best moment, and I'm guessing it wasn't yours as a listener either. So a different approach would be to systematically and purposefully bring your food consumption up to match the maintenance of your new weight, to give your body time to adjust to a new weight or set point. So instead of doing what we usually do, which is going on a diet, being super restrictive, and then just going back to our previous eating patterns, you go on a diet, and I'm not going to go into details about what's better for you because you're an individual, but you go on a diet, hopefully it's a balanced diet, and then you have a plan, you have a system for when you're done. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of the podcast. I'm kidding.
That could be it too. And then just figure it out.
Yeah, okay, that's it. That's it.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. That actually is the answer. The answer actually is, you need to have a purpose and a system to end your diet, but that's not helpful. So I'm going to take a step backward so that we can go forward. There are two things that influence the success of any diet: adherence and exit strategy. So adherence means your ability to stick to it. So if you go on a diet that you suffer through for a few days and then you need a cheat day so that you can suffer through the diet a little longer, odds are that this diet is not going to give you the long-term results that you're actually looking for, because a diet is only as good as your ability to see it through. So before you can look at the finish line, you have to look at the diet itself, because maybe for, Susan at the office, maybe for her, doing this specific list of foods or doing this specific program, it works, but that doesn't mean that that works for you and for your life. So there are many good diets out there, lots of them. There are horrible diets, but there are many good diets, and there is a best diet for you. So you need to look at the diet before you start it and see if you can do it without feeling starved all day, without breaking the bank. You don't want to spend tons of money on your diet. Without excessive exercise. We've talked about how much exercise you need. You don't want to go on a diet that you have to exercise for hours a day. You don't want to have a diet where you get cheat meals. And you want a diet that allows you to maintain your social and family life. So even though this seems like a tall order, these are basic lifestyle things that you have to consider before you go on a diet. And again, there's a best diet for you. You just need to find it. So maybe it's counting calories, maybe it's portion control, maybe it's time restricted eating, whatever it is. You have to be able to see yourself doing this long term, not because you should diet for life. Although diet culture tries to preach to us that we should always be on a diet, you always have to lose half a pound a week or whatever, a pound a week, whatever it is. You don't have to be on a diet for life, but what gets you to your goal is a modified version of what keeps you in maintenance. So let me say that again. What gets you to your goal is a modified version of what's going to keep you in maintenance. So if you can see yourself never eating a slice of pizza or a potato or a piece of fruit or a dessert for the rest of your life, you'll probably survive keto. If you can see yourself spending $100 a month for shakes and workout supplements for life, by the way, that's about $1,200 a year, go for that program. If you can see yourself only ever eating completely fresh foods, that might work for you. Now, these are some extreme examples, but the point is that adherence determines success. 75% adherence equals success for most people. So is this something you can stick with? Okay, then the odds of you being successful with this diet are very high. But if you look at this diet and on paper, it already seems impossible, it already seems too hard, well, chances are you're not going to follow through and it's not going to work for you. Now, the second thing that you need for success in a diet, and this is probably the most important part of any diet, is an exit strategy. And I've mentioned this so many times, and this is where I'm really going to break it down for you. An exit strategy really is the most important part of the diet, because an exit strategy is a way to leave your current situation, either because your goal has been achieved or because you want to mitigate failure. And in the case of weight loss, it's both. You've reached your goals and you don't want to fail in the future. Now, we talk about exit strategies a lot in terms of business and management. There's companies always have an exit strategy, but we don't talk a lot about that in our personal life. So most people's exit strategy is just to go back to eating like they did before. And if you think about that for more than 10 seconds, you're going to see that is not a great way to do it. And also, you've probably used that strategy before and you gained the weight back. So maybe we can try to do a little better. Your exit strategy needs to incorporate, number one, the foods you want to eat for life. Next, the balance of energy consumed with energy expended. And third, it has to solidify the habits that will keep the weight off for life. So your diet, and that's why I say, adherence is important. Take a look at your diet, because your diet should introduce you to these elements. Although with a fat loss application instead of a maintenance application, but your diet needs to actually incorporate these things. So incorporate the foods you want to eat for life. Foods vary by geography, financial status, taste, culture, habit, lifestyle. Food is not neutral, and food is not the same for everybody. So the diet that you can best adhere to will seldom eliminate foods that are important to you because of your values or your preferences or your dietary restrictions. So your diet, it needs to take into account the foods that you enjoy and that you want to eat for the rest of your life. For me, for example, that's always been chocolate. And I was only able to lose weight successfully and have kept it off for a long term because I actually added that to my day-to-day instead of saying I can't eat that anymore, because I did those diets where I couldn't eat the chocolate and I gained the weight back. So the second thing is that you balance the energy consumed with the energy expended. So every single diet, either to lose weight or to gain weight, this balance needs to be adjusted. So to lose fat, you need to consume less energy than your body is using so that you use up some fat in your body. So energy balance is the king of weight management. So the diet that you're going to best adhere to is going to put you in a deficit, but not so much that you're always hungry. Now, thirdly, you need to solidify the habits that will keep the weight off. Again, your diet should already be putting into place habits that are going to create maintenance, because the habits that create weight loss are also the habits that keep the weight off. So a good diet should be putting into practice lifestyle habits that are going to make dieting easier and also keep the weight off long term. And these are eating habits, exercise habits, stress management, sleep habits, and mindset. Okay, so these things are part of the diet itself, and these things are part of every diet, whether it's on purpose or not. And we wanted to be doing it on purpose. And these are the things that are going to help you keep the weight off long term. Now, all that being said, I've defined it for you, told you what adherence is, told you what an exit strategy is. How do you actually do that? How do you look at your diet and build an exit strategy? So number one, you plan the diet after the diet. So there are some important questions that you have to consider in a diet exit strategy, starting with the ones that are going to define what will compose the bulk of your lifestyle diet, meaning what you usually eat. And when I say lifestyle diet here, I mean that the bare bones definition of a diet is simply what you eat. You can be on a fat loss diet, you can be on a maintenance diet, you can be on a muscle gain or mass increase diet, but a diet is just what you eat. This term has been overused, and so we always associate it with not eating enough or trying to lose weight, but a diet is simply what you eat. So you need to figure out, how are you going to eat? How do you want to eat for the rest of your life? And a few questions you can ask are, what are the foods that you would like to eat again or would like to eat more of once you finish your fat loss diet phase? How much do you control your food? This is super important. Do you usually eat out? Do you usually eat at home? Do you usually cook? Does someone else cook for you? Do you travel for work? So these are important questions to ask to start building this strategy. These questions, they design what your lifestyle diet is going to look like. So for the person who didn't restrict, or for a person who did some sort of flexible dieting, one answer is that you just increase within your energy balance. You just increase the volume of food. You instead of eating maybe one cookie, you'll eat 2 or 3 cookies and you'll still be maintaining your weight. Instead of eating, I don't know, half a potato, you're going to eat one, or a potato and a half. These numbers are totally random. Okay. This is just off the top of my head. This is not a recommendation. Okay. This is just an example. So for the person that restricted foods or restricted groups of foods, and this is any diet that slashes a specific type of food, you need to reintroduce this gradually and systematically. You can't just start eating. So for the person that does keto, for example, an exit strategy is not from one day to the next to start eating carbs, because you're going to lose control and you're going to see a huge spike in weight that isn't what you want. So if you have restricted a food or a group of foods, you need to do this gradually. For the person that mostly eats at home or that cooks most of their meals, it's super easy to shift from dieting to maintenance with the volume increase. Now, for the person that eats out a lot, and this may mean events or traveling, or you don't cook your own meals, somebody else cooks for you, the shift is a little different because you have to take into account the variables that aren't under your control. But it's also just a shift that you're doing because you're still sort of eating the same things. You're just changing amounts and volume and stuff like that. Now, the point is that you need to know what your lifestyle is and you have to plan for it. Because what happens sometimes is that people will go on a 3, 4, 6 week diet and they change their entire life to fit into that diet frame. They don't go out, they don't have anybody over, they don't see their friends, they don't travel, they don't do anything. And so they're in a hyper controlled environment. And when they leave the diet and they go back to their actual lifestyle, you can't keep it up because that diet doesn't match the lifestyle. So you need to actually diet inside your lifestyle and plan for what you're going to do. And your exit strategy is for this season and for this diet that you did. So that's important to consider because life changes. Okay, the person you are right now and the season you're in right now, that's going to change. You know, you're going to age, maybe you'll go in or out of a relationship, you'll get married, or you'll have kids, or your kids are moving out, or you lost a spouse, or a older kid is moving back in with you. Like life changes and things shift, but your diet that you're doing right now, you're exiting this diet in this season. And then after you've been in maintenance, you're going to see that when life shifts, you shift with it. Life shifting doesn't derail you and make you gain all that weight back because you're continuing to manage your weight in maintenance. So that's number one, plan the diet after the diet. The second thing to build your exit strategy is to balance the energy you consume with the energy you expend. Many people, especially women, we are afraid to eat more after a diet. Now, this fear is not unfounded because it's probably happened where you dieted and then you ate more and you gained back all of the weight and then some. So the reason that this probably happened is because the diet you were on didn't have a clear exit strategy. So when you reach the goal, you do need to increase the amount of food you eat to maintain the weight loss. But, and you can go back to these episodes and check, if you do that with no structures, with no boundaries, you're going to put on a lot of weight very quickly because your hunger cues, they're out of whack, because you've been restricting, your body doesn't really know how to do this by itself. So you need an exit strategy. When you reach your goal, you have to increase the food to maintain that weight, but you have to be organized. You don't need to methodically reverse diet. Reverse dieting is all the rage right now. And let me make it clear that it is great for some people. Some people should absolutely reverse diet, but it's not for everybody. For most diets, you don't need to methodically reverse diet. That would be like increasing 50 to 100 calories a week until you get to maintenance. Like that's like really nitpicky. So it works for some people, but you don't have to go that meticulous, but you also can't just jump into maintenance because that backfires for most people. The middle ground is where you gradually reach your maintenance calories, and how you do this is largely based on what diet you actually did, but the idea is to gradually get there instead of jumping in from one day to the next. So day 22, you don't go straight to your maintenance calories. You work through it, and usually this can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to several months. It just depends on what diet you did before and what your goals are. Now, if you did a flexible diet, meaning portions, calories, macros, these are going to change over a period of time to reach maintenance. If you did a restrictive diet, meaning that you slashed a food group or a food type, this means that the consumption of your previously banned foods, you have to monitor that and adjust for energy balance. So maintenance is actually where you want to live your life. And I can say this for myself and for Shannon, we live in maintenance. That is where, we're at a good weight range. Now, again, your ideal weight, it's not a number, it's a range. We live there, and you know what? It's pretty great. We're not dieting all the time. You're eating enough. Shannon does her triathlon. So there are periods of the year where that's the goal. So that's what she's working towards. And, I have some exercise goals, but they're never that lofty because you all know by now I'm not a runner. But the point is, maintenance is where you want to live, and it's not sexy, it's not catchy, it doesn't sell transformation programs, it doesn't sell diets, but it's where you want to live because dieting sucks and dieting is hard and dieting is not fun. So the point of the diet should be to reach a place where you can live in maintenance.
It's freedom. It's
Yes.
absolutely 100% freedom. I mean, I remember from the age of, I counted my first calorie when I was 7. Like, what is a 7-year-old counting calories for? But really from there, and then it progressed from my teens very heavy into my younger and middle 20s. It wasn't until my late 20s where I just started to realize that this is depleting so much of my time and energy.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that you consumed was good or bad. Exercise sessions were, just me trying to burn off all the calories that you
Punishing
ate.
yourself.
Oh, yeah, exercise sessions were definitely punishment. It wasn't a celebration of moving my body whatsoever. So it's such an amazing place to be. And I think if there's one issue in this world that I could dismiss, it would be that. And I love fitness and exercise, and that would be my second goal. But if there is one, it would be to dismiss how mind boggling and energy wasting it is to be on a diet all of the time.
All of
It's
the time.
not how we are meant to live.
No, it's
Food
not.
is fuel. You can find freedom within it. But it takes a lot of time and consistency. I think about 28 is when I started to come to, and I'm 35 now. And I think I've been in the maintenance phase probably for 4 or 5-ish years. And it's just wonderful, and it's about
It
balance and it's
is.
about what works for you.
But again, right, you had to get to a point where you did a proper diet, not a crazy diet, where you did a proper diet and you knew how to exit the diet
Yeah.
so that you could eat more, because maintenance means more food. We know that, right? You can eat more in maintenance, and that's always a plus. If you're always dieting, and again, go back to this episode, you can listen to it. It's, if you're always dieting, you're always losing the weight and then binging and then restricting and then binging, restricting, binging.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to do. And
It's just a never ending
finally,
roller coaster.
exactly. And finally, in your exit strategy, you want to solidify the habits that keep the weight off. Now, again, hopefully, when doing your diet, you are pairing it with some habits that make dieting less daunting, because these habits actually make dieting easier, but they also build the foundation for your exit strategy and maintenance. And these are what I call the solid rocks. We're going to talk about this in a different episode, but these are your eating habits. What you eat matters. It matters when you diet, it matters when you maintain, and it matters even when you don't have a weight goal, because not everybody wants to lose weight, and that's great. More people should not have a weight loss goal and should have a maintenance goal, right? So what you eat matters for your physical health, for your longevity, for your mental health. So your exit strategy needs to take into account what you're going to eat for the rest of your life. Another habit is your exercise habits. 70% of people who maintain weight loss for over 3 years do some form of exercise, and any exercise counts. Walking is life changing, but it can be anything that you enjoy as a structured exercise, and it includes martial arts, group sports, yoga, anything. Now, a side note, and we're not going to go into this today because we've talked about this extensively, is that building muscle should be part of your exercise habits. It optimizes your metabolism, improves bone and joint health, helps regulate hunger. But again, it's more important that you do exercise. After you've started, you can get into which one would be best for you, but just move your body. The next one is stress management. Stress is equally overused and overlooked, in my opinion. Too many things are swept under the rug of it's just stress. At the same time, we don't seem to be making a conscious effort to decrease stress levels, especially around food and weight. So if your diet puts you in a state of stress or anxiety around food, I think you need to talk to a coach to work through that anxiety so that then you can have better results and better maintenance. Because among other things, stress increases cortisol, which increases water retention. Stress makes your hunger signals go completely out of whack. So managing stress around food and stress of eating and stress with foods in particular, that is important for a life that won't revolve around dieting and thinking about food all the time. And next is sleep habits. Sleep plays an essential role in our health. And when it comes to weight management, people who get sufficient sleep lose more fat as opposed to lean mass, mostly muscle. People who don't sleep enough, they lose the same amount of weight, but they lose more lean mass instead of losing fat. That should be reason enough for you to sleep. Sleep also has a role in regulating hunger and satiety hormones, and not getting enough sleep really does make you hungrier, even if you just ate, and it makes you more prone to eating comfort food. So good sleep habits are super important to live a life of weight maintenance. And finally, the last habit is faith or mindset. Now, don't leave yet. This is important. Your mental health. Our mental health has been more openly discussed now, and I think that's a really, really great thing. Now, as someone who lives with anxiety, it's incredibly helpful now to live in a world that acknowledges these struggles instead of just saying that I'm a drama queen. Your mindset, and if you have a faith, your faith, these are a huge foundation for weight loss and maintenance. From here come your strength to pull ahead, to push through on those days that are really tough, because every diet has super hard days. From here come your belief that you're a person that can achieve your goal. This is your anchor when you're navigating that storm of a diet mentality to maintenance. It's very hard to go from diet to maintenance mentality, and your mindset, your faith, that is your anchor to navigate this and to move from one space to the other. And this is hard, okay? We are bombarded with diet culture, the next best diet, an obsession with thinness, and now an obsession with what is supposedly healthy. It's enough to drive anyone up the wall. So we need to go from all that comparison, all that guilt, all those feelings of inadequacy. We need to move from there to loving our bodies, to having peace and contentment in our bodies. And this is a storm. It's a process that needs to be done if you're going to get out of the hamster wheel. And that all happens in your mind. So that's it. I talk about exit strategies all the time because for me, this really is the most important part of a diet. And we saw what it is and how to build it, planning it, balancing energy, solidifying habits. And these are things that, you need to take into account. And I hope that if you're on a diet, look at it and think about the exit strategy. If you're planning on going on a diet, go into it and, listen again, go to my blog post where all this is written down. So look at it and plan your exit strategy based on, where you want to be for life. And if you want to talk more about this, you can fill out a 1-minute form so that we can have a quick chat and I can point you in the right direction for where you want to go. And that link is in the description.
I love all of that so much. One thing that kind of came to mind was having an exit strategy when you leave the weekend, when you are on the maintenance phase. Because I know, like for me, like we mentioned, we're on the maintenance phase. And I've also found this with a few of my clients that are in the action phase, on their way to the maintenance phase. They do so well throughout the week, and it's meals based on what they like, and it's all balanced. They're not really restricting anything from their diet throughout the week. But come the weekend, we might eat a little bit more, indulge in the items that we like, drink more, so on and so forth. So I think it's important to almost have an exit strategy coming off of the weekend. Exit into the weekday, making one healthier decision that day, and let that be a waterfall effect throughout the week. So again, you're not restricting yourself moving into Monday, and you can maintain the maintenance phase.
And
Maintain
also the
balance.
exit strategy from the week to the weekend, because a lot of people, they lose it on the weekend, right? So I like that you're talking about going into the week with a better plan, but also going into the weekend with a plan and and this is something we learn as we work on maintenance.
Right.
We slowly learn this. But yes,
Exactly.
Listen as many times as you need, go back to the blog, fill out that form if you want a little bit of direction. And Shannon's going to tell us where we're going next week.
We are going to talk about the stabilization phase in fitness training. It's the best, most important phase out there, guys. You have to listen.
Well, we will see you here, same time, same place next week.